Hi, I'm Senator Lincoln Fillmore. This is my Week 3 update. We finished 3 weeks of the legislative session. I'm standing here in one of our committee rooms. This room is where the Public Education Appropriations Subcommittee meets. I chair that committee, and that's a really long name for the Education Budget Committee. And as the chair, I oversee the public education state budget. We got a lot of money this year in the state, so much money that I'm really concerned about the state's ability to effectively spend it, which is why I'm advocating really hard for a large tax cut that'll be part of our negotiations over the next few weeks. But before we get into too much detail about the tax cut, I want to talk to you more about a special feature of this room that's behind me. You can see there, it's a 45-star flag. That flag dates from 1896, the year that Utah achieved statehood. Utah first applied to become 1849, but because of controversy over religion and polygamy and some other issues with the federal government, Utah achieved territorial status in 1850 and wasn't made a state until 46 years later in 1896. So it's really nice to be in this room. That flag to me is a reminder of the value of perseverance, right? When you don't get what you want right away or what's right, you can keep working on it. And over time, you're very likely to get what you need with continued hard work and perseverance. I hope that's something that I bring here to the Senate in representing you. One thing I've been working on since I got here is to equalize funding in public education. And even in my first session, I ran a bill to try to make sure that school districts like Jordan, where our property values are a little bit lower and our number of kids are a lot higher, that we are able, as well as any other school district in the state, to be able to raise the funding necessary to educate our kids. That bill didn't pass in 2016 or in 2017. We got a temporary solution in 2018, but this year, Senate Bill 55 passed the Senate unanimously, and I'm so gratified by that. And this year, we have the support of the school community, the teachers, and really every legislator in the Senate. I'm really gratified that the continued efforts on here and building coalitions to try to get this through so that we can make sure that every kid in the state, regardless of zip code, has adequate funding for a quality education. Public education is the biggest part of the state budget, of course I oversee that part, but there are also 8 other appropriation subcommittees, and those all come together to create the state's budget, which will be in the above $25 billion this year. Only about $11 or $12 billion of that is state funds. The rest is federal funds. That gets allocated, and the majority of that goes to social services, Medicare, Medicaid, programs like that. But we are just finishing our work in those budget subcommittees. We're making our final prioritizations on Tuesday. That just means we're, as a committee, looking at what we think are the most important items to fund. As I mentioned earlier, I think the state has collected so much money that we cannot spend it effectively. And that's why I want to return a large portion of what the state has back to the taxpayer through income tax cuts, Social Security tax cuts, property tax rebates. I'm also part of a tax working group that is that's trying to put together the right package for the state of Utah. And for that, I'd love to have your feedback on what that tax cut should look like. Some other things we've been working on. Earlier this week, we passed a bill on domestic violence that requires police, when they're called out to a domestic violence situation, to do kind of an assessment. There's like a set of questions that they should be asking the victim to try to determine lethality, and to try to keep those kinds of records in a database so that as people are committing domestic violence, maybe over a period of time and in different jurisdictions, that police have record of past instances, which they currently don't have. And I think that's important for family and individual safety. One other fun thing that we're working on this week that just passed the Senate today on second reading is a bill that would recognize Diwali as a state commemorative day. Now, Diwali is a Hindu holiday that's also celebrated by Sikhs and some other religions, largely in parts of Asia. But as Utah has a growing community, and a lot of that community is centered in South Jordan, where we are home to the India Cultural Center of Utah, to the Sri Ganesh Hindu Temple. And so I've been working with these members of our community to try to get the state to just recognize and commemorate Diwali as a commemorative day in Utah. And we're so excited. We had a priest from that local temple come and give the prayer in the Senate today, and that bill passed, and I'm so excited about that. It's just a way that we can just celebrate Utah's growing diversity. So thank you so much. I still want to hear all of your calls and comments. Thank you for the emails as they still come. I know that controversial bills generate a lot more emails, but there are a lot of things like the state budget that don't get play in the newspapers and online every day, but that I want to hear from you about. So please let me know your thoughts about the tax cuts, about education funding, or anything else that's on your mind. You can send me an email, call me. I answer my phone when I'm up here if I'm not in a meeting, and I just would love to hear back from you. So thanks for keeping those coming, and I'll talk to you again next week.